Today we're going to go through the lesson on multiplication of fractions. This is lesson 5.1 in your workbook. I want you to draw each model in your notebook and label it with the correct multiplication problem. I'm going to explain to you using this first model right here that you see. Okay, if you look right here, you see 3 boxes or 4 boxes that are outlined in red. Okay, so every time you see the boxes, that is going to be your whole number. Then you look and you see how the boxes are divided on the inside. If you look and you pay attention here, you can see that there are 1, 2, 3 8s in each of those boxes. Then, if you look, you can count and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 8 altogether. So this is going to be the model of 4 times 3 8s, because you have 4 holes and you have 3 8s inside each one of them. Now when you count and you get 12 8s, you need to realize that a model is always going to show you an improper fraction as an answer. It is never going to show you a whole or a mixed number. So now that you have 12 over 8, remember you have to say that 8 goes into 12 one time, which is 8, with 4 left over, and your denominator is going to remain the same. So 1 and 4 8 is your answer. So that is how you read that model there. So I want you now to copy the next 2 models, and we've used this answer choice here, and I want you to place the other 2 choices with the models that you see below. Now I want you to answer this problem in your workbook. Which multiplication equation matches the model? Here you see the steps for multiplying fractions. These are the steps that you need to follow when multiplying fractions. Multiply the fraction's numerator, which is the top number, by the whole number to find the numerator of the product. Keep the fraction's denominator, and if the product is an improper fraction, rewrite it as a mixed number in simplest form. So you need to remember that the numerator is the top number, the denominator is the bottom number, and that you must change all improper fractions to mixed numbers. You do not have to have common denominators when you multiply fractions. So you may want to make a side note of that. You do not have to find common denominators when you multiply fractions. You need to remember also that when you have a whole number, that you put a 1 under it to make your whole number a fraction. All right, you need to work this problem in your workbook. If you're a little bit confused by the example or the steps on the previous page, I'll give you this example here. If you have 4 times 2/3, to do this, you would put 4 over 1 And now you would multiply your numerators. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. You have an improper fraction, so you say that 3 will go into 8 2 times, which is 6. You have 2 left over, and your denominator stays the same. So 3 2/3 is your final answer. So you need to remember when you work the problem here that you put a 1 under your 3, which is your whole number, before you start. Now here they want you to use a model to multiply a fraction in a whole number. So to show 2/5 times 3, you show your 3 wholes. So here you've got 1, 2, 3 wholes. Then they want you to divide each of the 3 ones into 5 equal parts. If you're going to multiply 2/5, you need to remember that 5/5 equals 1 whole. That's why you have this divided into 5ths. Okay? Now, they ask you to model 2/5 times 1/3. So you are going to, right here, step 3, one part shows 3 divided by 5, or 1/5 of 3. One thing that's a little bit hard to see here is when you model 2/5 times 3, is they show you 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, and then they show you 1/5, 1/5, 1/5. So this is actually, you mark 2/5 inside each one of those holes. So when you do that, you actually have 6/5 colored in all together. All right, then when you have 6/5 colored in all together, you see over here that 6/5 is the answer that you come up with, and then you change that to your improper fraction, which is 1 1/5. Now right here, which multiplication matches the model? Right? You need to first look and see how many holes you have. So if you look right here, you have 3 holes. All right, both of your choices down there have 3 as the whole number. Then you look and you have 1, 2, 3 marked in there. So are you having 3/4 times 3? Or are you having 3 equals 6/4, or are you having 3/4 times 3 equals 9/4? Well, to find out your answer, you need to see how many you have colored in here. So when you count, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this right here would be your correct answer. You have 9/4, or 2 1/4.
Teachers, please pardon the interruption.
All right, you have this question here in your workbook. Since 3/4 times 3 equals 9/4, or 2 1/4, what does 3 times 3/4 equal? And they want you to explain that. Well, if you notice, here you have 3/4 times 3, and here you have 3 times 3/4. You are displaying one of our properties of multiplication, which you should recognize as the commutative property. In both of those, you would need to place a 1 under your whole number to create a fraction. And when you multiply them, you should find that you get the same answer. They should equal the same thing. You should get 9/4 from both of those, and they should both give you 2 1/4. The reason you were getting a different answer before is because you were reading the model incorrectly. You were trying to figure out which problem the model will show it. You should get the same answer for both of these. All right, now I want you to work these examples in your notebook, and then when you get done, I want you to bring your notebook to me, and I want you to let me check all three of these problems so that I can see that you understand and that you have got them done correctly. I want you to also work this one in your workbook, and then I want you to check it. If you have 2 fifths times 4 fifths, then you should get 8 over 25, because 2 times 4 is 8, and 5 times 5 is 25. Now this slide here talks about simplifying the product. We've talked about in our core bites that there are 2 ways to simplify a product. This one here says when multiplying 2 fractions such as 3/8 times 2 fifths, there are 2 ways you can use to write the product in simplest form. First of all, it's just like I did in the previous problem. You can multiply the numerators and the denominators. Then you can divide the numerator and the denominator of the product by their greatest common factor. So 3 times 2 is 6, 8 times 5 is 40. The greatest common factor of those 2 numbers is 2. And then you simplify your final answer to be 3 over 20. Method number 2 is what we talk about and we did in our core bites. When you have the fraction 3/8 times 2 fifths, remember how we talked about that you look crossways here, and you see, and you pay attention to the fact that if you have the fraction 2/8, you're going to divide both of those by the greatest common factor. So if you do that, you would divide this by 2, and you would divide this by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Then you would look this way, and if you had the fraction 3/5, that would already be in its simplest form. 3 is a prime number, 5 is a prime number, and nothing times 3 gives you 5, so you can't make those numbers any smaller. So now you would have 3/4 times 1/5. 3 times 1 is 3, and 4 times 5 is 20. Now your answer is already in its simplest form. When you don't use your greatest common factor to divide by to begin with, you will still have to simplify your answer at the end. So if you have large numbers, say like 2 even numbers, and you just use 2 to divide by rather than the greatest common factor, then you need to realize that your answer is still not going to be in simplest form. So for example here, if you need to work this problem in your workbook, you need to remember the area equals length times width. Doesn't matter because multiplication is commutative, which one of these fractions you put first. So if you have 5/6 times 3/5. The greatest common factor of 5 and 5, if you look across here, would be 5. So if you divide both of these by 5, then this would change to 1, and this would change to 1. If you had the fraction 3/6, you would divide by 3 here, and you would divide by 3 here, and then this number would change to a 2, and this would change to a 1. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. If you hadn't done that, you would have had 15 over 30, and then you would have had to simplify that to 1/2. So you should have gotten the same answer either way, and that would have been meters squared because you're talking about area. All right, now you need to work the closing check that is in your workbook, and then once you get done with that, you need to refer to the IXLs that I have placed on the IXL poster in your room.